But let's just start with this ridiculous wedding that took place over this weekend. Because
immigration policy is destroying the lives of families, not criminals. Women's rights.
They invited Gail on that ridiculous space flight so they could get some news coverage on CBS. And now because
this wasn't a wedding, it was a $50 million PR stunt disguised as a royal fairy tale, complete with a foam-spewing yacht, fake friendships, and a bride who wiped her Instagram clean to post Vogue spreads instead of real memories. Jeff Bezos and Lauren Sanchez didn't get married. They launched a brand campaign, and somehow it made Venice look tacky. Lauren Sanchez didn't walk into that wedding, she descended. Draped in couture and delusion, she stood on the balcony of a Venetian palace blowing kisses like she was Queen of England, not the former news anchor turned billionaire's girlfriend. She waved at the cameras like she was born into royalty, not reality TV. And while most brides arrive in a car, Lauren arrived by floating palace. Bezos's yacht, yes, the one that has its own yacht, glided into Venice, trailing clouds of foam into the Mediterranean like it was a shampoo commercial for the elite. No one seemed to care about the environmental damage, except, ironically, Leonardo DiCaprio, who was probably holding back tears, watching the sea die under all that billionaire residue. This wasn't just a wedding. This was a flex. An Instagrammable, paparazzi-choked fantasy staged like a coronation. But beneath the glitz and the gowns, one thing was clear. These two weren't royalty, they were playing dress-up. And next came the guest list that proved it. You'd think a wedding this extravagant would be filled with childhood friends, longtime mentors, people who actually knew the couple before they were rich and famous. Nope. Instead, it looked like the red carpet at a Netflix launch party. Leonardo DiCaprio was there, of course, though probably wishing he'd taken a smaller yacht. Sydney Sweeney made the cut, reportedly because, well, the internet can't stop talking about her body. Kim Kardashian? Not even supposed to be there. According to Page 6, her mom, Kris Jenner, begged for all the Kardashians to be invited, because what's a wedding without a last-minute PR negotiation? And then there's Oprah and Gail, not close friends, just familiar faces from a publicity stunt. Remember that space flight Bezos did with Blue Origin? He needed CBS coverage, so he invited Gayle King. Now she's at the wedding. Oprah tagged along. Was this a wedding or a press junket? Notice who wasn't there. No one from Lauren's early journalism days. None of Bezos's old colleagues. No favorite professors, no early business partners, not even his little league coach. This wasn't a celebration of love. It was an influencer summit, carefully curated by a publicist with a spreadsheet and a deadline. Because this wedding wasn't about shared history, it was about headlines. Right after the I-dos, Lauren Sanchez did what any totally normal, totally in-love bride would do. She nuked her entire Instagram. Every post, gone. Years of photos, memories, personal moments, deleted. And in their place, a single post. One image, one Vogue magazine wedding photo of her and Jeff, posed like they'd just conquered the Roman Empire in a Dior ad. No heartfelt captions, no blurry candids, no behind the scenes with family and friends. Just a high fashion shoot, meticulously styled to look like intimacy, but dripping with self-importance. If weddings are supposed to be personal, this felt like a press release, because this wasn't a wedding album, it was a rebrand. And let's be real, no one wipes their account clean unless they're launching a new product. Lauren didn't just marry a billionaire, she became one, on the grid. But this cold, hyper-curated image of perfection, it wasn't built overnight. There was a time, believe it or not, when Lauren Sanchez was just a local news anchor with a helicopter license and big ambitions. She was smart, driven, and flying, quite literally, above the competition. The hustle was real, but the fame, not so much. Despite her early career grind, Sánchez never cracked the national spotlight as a journalist, so she adjusted her flight path, right into the arms of powerful men. First, an NFL star. Then Patrick Whitesell, the co-CEO of WME, one of Hollywood's most powerful agencies. And from there, straight into Jeff Bezos' DMs, while both were still married. Their affair made headlines for all the wrong reasons. Leaked texts, cringe nicknames, public scandals. But somehow Lauren came out of it, not just unscathed, but upgraded. From co-parenting with Hollywood execs to flying private jets with the richest man alive. And just like her relationship status, her appearance transformed along the way. The once natural news anchor now looked like she'd been drafted into the Kardashian army. Skin-tight waist, inflated curves, and a face so puffed and sculpted it barely blinked. Somewhere along the way, the journalist disappeared, and in her place stood a product. But she wasn't the only one who changed for the cameras. Remember when Jeff Bezos was just a nerdy Princeton grad in a baggy sweater selling books out of a garage? That guy is long gone. Now, Bezos looks like he wandered off the set of a Marvel movie. Jacked arms, skin-tight polos, and a smirk that screams, "I inject testosterone and I own your rent." Somewhere between launching rockets and divorcing his wife, he hit the gym like it owed him money and emerged looking like a Bond villain who runs a startup. This is a man who used to talk about optimization algorithms. Now, he's built like a nightclub bouncer with a space program. His rebrand was just as dramatic as Lauren's, and maybe that's the point. These two didn't fall in love, they evolved into each other's final forms. Two hyper-enhanced, media-trained avatars of wealth, power, and filtered reality. Together, they looked less like a couple in love and more like collectibles. Barbie and Bezos, limited edition. And their wedding wasn't just about commitment, it was about completing the transformation. This wedding didn't feel like a union of two souls, it felt like the unveiling of two action figures. From the spray-tanned guests to the robotic smiles, everything about the event screamed artificial, designed, staged, filtered. Even the love felt branded. Watching Bezos and Sánchez float through Venice on matching Botoxed grins, it wasn't romance, it was marketing. They weren't glowing, they were reflecting ring lights. Lauren looked like a hyper-edited version of herself, all sharp curves and impossible angles. Jeff looked like he'd been carved from bronze by someone who used Instagram filters as references. The entire event was surreal, like Barbie married a bouncer at a Dolce & Gabbana commercial shoot. And when they glided into the gondolas for their post-ceremony photo op, you half expected one of them to glitch like an animatronic at a Billionaire theme park. This wasn't a wedding. It was a flex on humanity, but what really made it strange? The people who weren't there. For all the money spent, for all the foam-spraying yachts and Vogue photographers, one thing was missing from this $50 million spectacle. Actual friends. Where were the people who knew Jeff before he was worth $250 billion? Where were Lauren's journalism mentors, her old newsroom colleagues, her childhood best friends? Nowhere. Because this wedding wasn't about celebrating love with people who mattered. It was about collecting names that looked good in headlines. It was a clout party dressed as a ceremony. They had Hollywood royalty, but no hometown stories. No awkward toasts from college roommates, no inside jokes from co-workers who saw them at their worst. Just carefully selected VIPs, influencers, and legacy names designed to trend. This guest list wasn't built with love, it was built with a LinkedIn filter and a PR deadline. And that's what made it so cold, so fake, so perfectly performative. It's not who you love, it's who your brand associates with. But the biggest irony? Even in a palace in Venice surrounded by stars, they still looked kind of lonely. At the end of the day, this wasn't a wedding, it was a masterclass in illusion. Jeff Bezos and Sánchez didn't just tie the knot, they tied themselves to a manufactured image, a carefully crafted brand that's more about appearances than authenticity. A show meant to dazzle the cameras, impress the headlines, and dominate the gossip mill. But beneath the yachts, the Vogue covers, and the billionaire bluster, there's a question nobody asks. What happens when the spectacle is bigger than the soul? This wedding was a mirror reflecting the wildest excesses of celebrity culture, a reminder that money can buy a throne, but it can't buy genuine connection. So next time you scroll past those perfect wedding pics or glossy headlines, remember, not everything that sparkles is gold. Sometimes it's just foam drifting into the Mediterranean.